Tell me, though, what's his technique? That last strike, it seems invincible.
Hello, and welcome to Sons of the Dragon, the Immortal Iron Fist podcast. My name is Connor McKenna, and Carl is not here today. He is at a con, and he has this mustache, and the mustache, well, it's either dynamite or really creepy. I'll put it in the show notes if he lets me, so our dear listeners can decide. But today, I'm not going to be covering the next issue of Iron Fist, but I will be covering some Iron Fist news, and at the end I'll do an issue of Daredevil, which is somewhat relevant to Iron Fist. And it's a pretty good issue too, so there's that. So, first up, we have news that Finn Jones, the actor cast for Iron Fist, is studying martial arts and Buddhism for Iron Fist training. Now this is interesting because he told the press that he is doing Kung Fu and Wushu mixed with a bit of Tai Chi. So, movie Kung Fu. So it's good that he's studying... Well, I mean, it's good that he's studying martial arts, full stop, and not just getting a stuntman to do everything. He's also bulking up, which is good, because... Well, I really like the look for him. He does need to bulk up to get a better physique. And he's also, he's doing Buddhism, studying Buddhist philosophy and meditation, which is quite interesting, because I don't know if that's essential for the role, but it shows that he's definitely committed. I'm really interested to see where that goes, I guess. Or maybe that's a hint to what Danny's characterization will be like in the show. I don't know. I don't know much more to say about that, but I'm very, very intrigued by this news. And I quote him here, he said, "I've always dreamed of a role that bridged spiritual discipline and badass superhero. There's a contradiction in those elements that's going to be very fun to play." So, hopefully that means we'll be getting a conflicted Danny. Not a clown Danny, like that's been popping up in certain recent issues of a certain run. I think we talked about that enough, though. Well, I don't know. It's weird not having Carl here with his mustache. Anyway, so it's in pre-production right now. Hopefully we'll get a 2017 release. It's becoming, the whole Netflix thing is becoming a bit of a cluster duddy, because you got Jessica Jones Season 2, you're probably going to get Daredevil Season 3, in fact I'll look that up real quick right now. Daredevil Season 3... I mean, a lot of people are talking about Season 3, but I don't know if there's been anything actually confirmed. Okay. Season 3 hasn't been confirmed yet, but hopefully it will be, because I've been really enjoying it. I'm a bit disappointed Jessica Jones got a Season 2, because I feel like they really just could have made her a side character in Luke Cage or something. But anyway, and I also want to cover all the Iron Fist Easter eggs in the shows in case you missed them. So obviously we'll start with Daredevil Season 1. Now, there was a pretty big Easter egg in the very first episode. Now we haven't covered Davos the Steel Serpent properly yet in the show because we're just about to get up to him, but I'm sure that if you're listening to this show and you're an Iron Fist fan, you probably know who Davos is. Like, he's his arch nemesis pretty much. And at the end of Daredevil episode 1 in season 1, when all the blind Chinese people are sorting the heroin, they're putting a stamp on them, and the stamp is clearly the Steel Serpent symbol on Davos's chest. So I'm sure Davos will be in the show. I'm sure he'll be the villain, at least I hope that's the case. So then we have the other big Easter egg in Daredevil Season 1 is Madame Gao, who is one of the Kingpin's allies, and you think she's Chinese, but then she keeps dropping these weird hints everywhere. At one point she says she literally knows every single language on Earth. She also says to Leland Owsley, the owl, that she's from somewhere very far away. And, that combined with the Steel Serpent logos on the heroine, which we keep seeing throughout the show, and her being super cryptic. And even the showrunner came out and said he was an Iron Fist fan. He put a lot of Iron Fist Easter eggs in the first season of Daredevil. And the other big thing is, she attacks Daredevil with chi, knocks him clear across the room with an open palm strike. Now, I'm pretty sure the Iron Fist isn't going to work like that. I'm pretty sure they're using the full-on fire effects for the fist, which will be good, but still, that was interesting. And there's one more Easter egg in Season 1, but it never made it into the show, but stills from production showed that the trucks that crashed and that blinded Daredevil when he was a kid was a Rand Corporation truck. Now, personally, I'm glad they kept that out of it, because I don't like the idea that, any of these guys' origins would be intertwined in any way. I don't really like that stuff. It should never rely on... I don't know, I just don't think other heroes should feed into other heroes' origins that much. Cross-universe stuff is good, but you don't want to go overboard. Like, a Rand Corporation truck blinding Daredevil, that makes him a bit too connected, even if it's not Danny specifically. Yeah, I just don't like it. But, obviously, that's an Easter egg. So then we get to Daredevil Season 2. Now, there wasn't really much in Daredevil Season 2. Madame Gao popped up again and dropped more cryptic hints that she's not of this particular plane, so Kunlun and stuff. But there was a very interesting tiny Easter egg, and this is the only real Easter egg I could find for Iron Fist in the whole of Season 2. And I can't remember what episode, but they're holding up a newspaper with the article Punisher Punished. And in the bottom left-hand corner, and it's quite hard to read, "New something shed light on Lost City." And a lot of people have speculated that Lost City is Kunlun. I mean, I can't really think of what else it is, to be honest. If anyone has any other ideas, I guess just contact us at blah blah blah. Yeah. I'm guessing that's Kunlun, because these shows do drop references to the movie and stuff, but most of all, they are really connecting to each other. So that's definitely an interesting Easter egg. And then we got Jessica Jones. So, we all know who Jan Hogarth is. Well, in Jessica Jones, he is now a woman called Jerry Hogarth, who is a lesbian. But, still a similar character. I'm not going to get too upset about changing Jan Hogarth. As, yeah, I guess she's probably, I don't know if he/she, it's going to get confusing, is a worse person in the show, Jessica Jones, or in the comic. I mean, he and she is pretty bad in both. Insufferable character, so it'll be good to see Danny interact with him. Yeah, she was the biggest Easter egg for Iron Fist, obviously, because it's an Iron Fist character. And there was a couple of other ones. There was a reference to the White Tiger, Angela Del Toro, who Jessica Jones recommends to someone, I think. And the White Tiger is obviously connected to the Iron Fist because we have the Sons of the Tiger, with Bob Diamond. We all know who Bob Diamond is. And how they eventually disbanded and the power of all of them got transferred into the Jade Amulet of the Tiger. I think it's Jade Amulet. I don't know. I might be getting some of this wrong. It's been a while. And it gets handed down to the next White Tiger, who dies in, well, quite frankly, a really, really good Daredevil issue. And then Angela Del Toro takes over as the next White Tiger. So, yeah, that was a reference. There is also... Wait, is there another reference? Yeah, not really. I think that's it, pretty much, for Iron Fist and Jessica Jones. Now, the good thing about these Easter eggs is you're watching the show, because I remember I watched Iron Man 2, and there was an after credit scene, and I'm like, oh, holy doodle, it's gonna be like the 10 rings of Mandarin, and I was waiting for it, and it's just Thor's hammer in the ground. I was so mad. I'm like, did you just put an ad for Thor at the end of Iron Man? I was expecting, if you're setting up something, set up something to do with the freaking character at least. And I like how these shows, there's no after credits stuff. Okay, sometimes the references are a bit too obvious. Like at one point in Daredevil Season 2 they say Jessica Jones' name, which is really not necessary. But, you know, it feels a bit forced sometimes, but nowhere near the level of the Marvel movies. And I'm sure you're all aware of how I feel about the Marvel movies. No, I have not watched Ant-Man yet or Age of Ultron. But I'm going to stop because Carl's not there to offset my negativity about these movies. So, yeah. So that's all the Iron Fist content, really, for today. I'm quite excited that he's studying Buddhist philosophy and meditation and, wushu and kung fu. That's really interesting. I'm really glad he's very committed to the role. Hopefully he'll kill it. As I said, the only thing I've seen him in is Game of Thrones. I'm not sure what else he's in. I might just quickly look at that now, actually. Let's see. Because, as I said, Game of Thrones doesn't really show off anyone's acting talent, because the acting in that show is generally pretty overdone and hammy. He was also in Life in Squares. Never seen that. Okay, so he's in a few things, but nothing I've ever seen, really. He's in The Bill in 2010. Didn't The Bill get cancelled like way earlier than that? This is important stuff, people. It's important stuff. Anyway, so moving on. That's all the Iron Fist content for this episode. Now I'm going to cover an issue of Daredevil. And this issue of Daredevil is not really connected to Iron Fist, but if you all remember way back in episode 3, when Danny went through Harold Meacham's skyscraper, which is just full of ridiculous, convoluted traps, and I mentioned that there's a Daredevil issue that's even worse, well, that's the issue I'm going to cover. There's so many traps here which are so ridiculous. It's amazing though, the art's good. It's a bit like Saw, I guess. But yeah, so the issue of Daredevil that I am covering is Daredevil 208 in Volume 1. So just a bit of background on Daredevil, in case you don't know about him. Basically, Daredevil is a superhero who is a blind lawyer by day and a vigilante by night. So it's all contradiction there. He was blinded when he was a kid. He said there was an old man crossing the street, an old blind man actually, and he was about to get hit by a truck carrying hazardous materials. Matt Murdock, who is Daredevil, pushed him out of the way, and the materials splashed onto his face and they blinded him permanently. But the materials the radioactive materials enhanced all of his other senses to superhuman ability. So, yeah. Or it's explained later that they merely unlocked their full potential. So he's sort of just, blind samurai sort of thing going on. He doesn't kill people. He was trained by an old white cranky guy called Stick, how to focus it and stuff. And yeah, his dad was killed because he refused to throw a fight. He was killed by the mob. And that's where Matt became Daredevil and swore to fight injustice. And, yeah. And that should be sufficient background for those of you who don't know about the character. And let's hop into it. Okay, so this was published in July 1984, and the story was by Harlan Ellison and Arthur Byron did the cover, and the pencils are by David Mazzucchelli. I probably butchered that pronunciation, forgive me, but he's a great artist. He did Born Again as well. The inks is by Danny Sulinati. Again, I probably butchered that, I apologise. Lettering is by Joe Rosen. Colours by Christy Shields. Editor Bob Budiansky. Editor-in-Chief, drumroll please, Jim Shooter. We've talked about him a few times, haven't we? Yes. So, the title is The Deadliest Night of My Life, and the cover is great. It has, it's like a big movie poster. Obviously, you have the Marvel thing in the top left corner with Daredevil leaping forward, and the title is just Daredevil in the Deadliest Night of My Life. So they incorporate the title of the story into the Daredevil banner, which I really like. And he's standing in front of this very gothic style mansion with lights on inside, and he has a, I don't know, angry, concentrated look on his face as a bunch of spikes are flying towards him. And it's snowy, it's nighttime, it's very atmospheric, it's a great cover, I really like it. Daredevil's head looks a bit weird, a bit like Christian Bale Batman, which is never a good thing, but that's my only gripe about the cover, really. And in the bottom left corner you have, Spider-Man's head, except it's the black costume, so yeah. Anywho, on to the first page. Stan Lee presents Daredevil, the Man Without Fear. And the story starts off, it's snowing. It's pretty much the middle of the night, I think. He's just dropped off 2 thugs for armed robbery and assault. And he says if the clerk's too scared to press charges, then he will. And he was saying they put up a pretty big fight, longer than he expected from street punks, and they actually knocked him around a bit. So now he's just tired, he just wants to go to bed, sleep, because he's got a court date at 8 in the morning. And then he hears someone go, "Mr. Daredevil!" And he looks around, looks being a, because he's blind. Anyway, it actually shows him in this top panel. Actually, sorry, I should describe the first page. Yeah, he's leaping down from somewhere, and he's just in front of like a couple of brownstones and stuff. It's pretty good. So he looks into this alley, and he sees a little girl telling him that her mum's in trouble. And it has the radar pings going out from Daredevil's head. And he says there's something wrong, there's pain and fear in the kid's voice. And he mentions he can't read a heartbeat though, because of the beating he took in all the snow as well. So she runs off and he follows her. He remarks that she moves pretty fast and he's following her through a bunch of alleyways and stuff. Then she goes into this brownstone at the end of the alley. And Daredevil asks where her mother is. And these are some great panels here. Just especially like the shading and inking is just fantastic. So as Daredevil asks where her mother is, he leaps forward as the door behind him just slams. Except it's like a metal door and it slams downward. And then he looks and there's 2 shelves in front of him full of food and stuff, and it opens up into what looks like a long hallway. And he picks up the little girl and says, "What's going on, kid? Make my day, punk." He doesn't say that last part, but you know what I mean. And he says, there's a panel in the middle where he sort of has a startled look of realization, and he says, "For the first time I'm close enough to hear her heartbeat." And then he proceeds to just throw her to the end of that room, and she blows up. So it was a very advanced robot, obviously, and it had a hydraulic system that could mimic a heartbeat. And yeah, the bomb would have turned him into puree. So he walks through the smoke, and then his radar sense starts going out, and he just thinks, what have I got myself into? And a vision sort of forms, not vision, like it's like a really long hallway. It's a long tunnel, and that's all he can really make out. And it's running under the slums, probably running under the wealthy estates in Riverdale. And then again, a big metal door slams behind him, and he has no choice but to go forward. There's a few silent panels here, which are really good as he's feeling his way through. There's more slamming doors behind him, and he keeps going forward, and as he keeps going forward, there's more doors slamming behind him. And, well, he feels like a lab rat in a maze, and he's wondering if this could be the work of Jester or Arcade. And then he very faintly hears some metal moving, and he immediately does this backflip as just spikes erupt from the walls on either side of him, and one nips him in the neck, but that's about it. And yeah, so basically this next page is great, because you don't really know what's going on. He's saying his brains are scrambled, his radar sense is completely wonky, and the art makes no sense. He can't tell if he's in a tunnel, or if he sees the barrel of a gun. Actually has him walking through the barrel of a gun, which is, really great effect. Eventually, he snaps out of it. It's really hot, apparently, and a door opens and he walks through. And then he falls. And he's saying, I'm going to break my neck when I hit the ground because this is a big damn fall. But then he falls into quicksand. And he's in this sort of weird greenery room. And you can actually see a big mansion in the background. But obviously he can't, so he has no idea where he is. But yeah, he's in like this big greenery. And so he's saying, he's just talking about his quicksand knowledge. Don't struggle. And he lays flat on his stomach and does breaststroke until he gets out of the quicksand. And he just wants to rest for a minute, but as he swam out of the quicksand and went onto this particular panel, it opens up and pours him down a big slide towards a wall full of spikes just sticking out. And his radar sense picks up on that. So his radar sense, by the way, guys, in case you don't know, is, well, his advanced senses, so to speak, like all the other senses but his sight, just painting a picture for him. And so he concentrates on each spike and just does this crazy maneuver, and he lands in between all these spikes in a very awkward position. He gets nicked a couple of times, but he's not impaled. But does he have time to celebrate that? No, because there's a pit of acid beneath him which smells like garlic. And his hands are slipping, and then the wall of spikes flips over into another room and throws him. Ah, yes, it's trying to crush him. And there's like a few pictures of Daredevil doing maneuvers, and then he flips out of it. It's weird to describe, guys. Trust me, this is crazy stuff. So now he's in this big, nice room. There's a chandelier, the sound of crystal tinkling, what he thinks is Persian rugs. It's a mansion. It's a bloody mansion, not a fun house, he thinks. And yeah, there's 3 doors in front of him, and he's just thinking, which door, because they're probably all going to be trapped. So he looks at door number 2, throws his billy club at it, boom, blows up, of course. Then he tries door number 1, uses a billy club to open it without harming himself, and there's just 3, what looks like cannons behind this door that fire forward. And he goes 3rd time's the charm, and he touches the doorknob with his hand this time. And it's just enough of a shock to let him know that he's going in the right direction. And he's still woozy, still doped from that dart he got back in the beginning, hence why he was freaking out and stuff. So he goes through the door, it's another long corridor. But no, it's not. It was a fabrication. And the art's done really well, I can't emphasize that enough, because it's painting you a picture for the reader, but it's sort of a lot of the time it's sort of what he senses. So you see a long hallway, but it's not actually there. And there's not much detail in certain panels. Like, it's just good. And the shading is just phenomenal throughout this whole issue. It's great. And he senses a camera watching him at the top of this room. And then he hears the sound of hydraulics again. And yep, you guessed it, it's another trap. I mean, God, there's so many traps in this. This is like Trap City. This is way more traps than Harold Meacham. And Harold Meacham had 10 years. And eat your heart out, Harold. I guess technology's advanced, like 10 years later? Still. Anyway, he's like, well, I can't go out, so I gotta go up. So he proceeds to rip off some of his costume and form them as, use them as mittens to climb up all these spikes coming out of the wall. Well, these blades, actually. And he sort of leaps. You know how you like leap in Mario? He does that, except on the blades. He's doing all sorts of crazy acrobatic maneuvers. He eventually grabs on to the camera at the top. And at this point, all the blades are fully extended. Yeah. Oh, he's losing grip on the camera. So he thinks, this is just crazy. One of these traps are going to kill me at some point. He's got to not play along. So he kicks a hole through the wall. And in the process, dislocates his hip. But he's happy that he's backstage now because he thinks he'll find the puppet master. And he notices around him there's just heaps of circuits, electrical humming. So he destroys the camera, and he's just saying, alright, essentially he just says, alright, let's trash some of this stuff to mess up whoever is behind this, even just a bit. So he starts just trashing the place, throwing his billy club, palm striking cables, ripping out stuff, kicking stuff, and then the alarm sound, which is he expecting, but still it causes him a lot of pain because of his ultra-sensitive hearing. And now, apparently the house is onto him because it's let out cyanide gas. So he goes forward into the vents and holds his breath. And there's a really great panel down the bottom here with his radar sense going out. And, well, he looks like Bullseye. He thinks it's cyanide gas. But who knows what it is. And, yeah, so he's calling through this vent of electrical currents, and guess what? A bunch of snakes come out. Black mambas from Africa, taipans from New Guinea, tiger snakes from my backyard in fair Australia. And, well, one bite and he's dead. And they're all just moving towards him, and he's like, I don't know if I'm hallucinating this, but I gotta do something. So he gets 2 cords, puts them together for an electric shock, and burns them, I guess scares them away. He sees an opening up ahead of him. And, yeah, so he goes up and there's a circulation fan there. So he opens it, and hey, he's outside. And, yeah, it's a huge friggin' mansion, at least 2.5 acres, and he says it's like some crazy old money patchwork mansion. It's like this big, it doesn't even look like a mansion, it looks like a very small village or something. And then he goes, uh-oh, laser beams! And there's a bunch of heat-seeking bunch of heat-seeking mounted turrets which fire laser beams just on all of the roofs, just aiming at him. So he's doing some crazy acrobatic maneuvers, and then he falls through a window. And now he's back in the madhouse, and he's not happy about it. And he can feel sensors under the floor. It knows I'm here. And yep, his weight started a sequence in this random room to just tip him down to a pool without water and a dying shark due to lack of water. Now, that's interesting. It turns out, due to all the damage he did later, he's messed up some of the traps, which is good because every single thing he does triggers some sort of trap. There is no break. And he feels that the water's salt water, so he swims through it hoping to get out, and he comes up through the shark's holding tank. Then he just collapses and says, "Come get me, freak, I'm too beat to fight." Well, he doesn't say it, he thinks it. And there's more gas. Fear, what cripples us. Suffocation, there's a panel of him holding his throat, burned alive. Another panel, it's basically, he's holding his head and sort of doing some gestures, and I know it's weird, and coming out in streaks are the panels which I'm describing. So they're diagonally coming out and going upwards. Burned alive, falling, death of a loved one, and that flashes back to Bullseye killing Elektra. Ridicule, a fool, and that flashes, I'm guessing that's a reference to when he was being teased as a kid for being blind, essentially. They were pretty mean. yeah, that's probably where he was getting teased, and they were calling him Daredevil because he was just a bookworm. And then there's Amputation, and he's just crawling along, and he's just lying on the floor, and then it just flashes to a shot of him without his mask, and he's just thinking, stick, I didn't forget. And he starts meditating, and that panel's great because it's just pure black and him in the middle meditating. I need Carl here. He's better at this than me. Oh well. And then he thinks, if I go out, it's going to be on my feet, not on my knees. So there's Daredevil's classic never give up attitude. And he goes, he just says, come on, bring it, dude. I'm ready. And a panel of the wall slides open. Or, yeah, whatever. And he walks through another long corridor. There's 2 doors at the end, and he opens it. And he says it smells old, and he's in another nice room, and he says it smells old and wealthy, circa 1900. Windows are barred. And he says, if I speak quietly, will you come out? It's time we faced each other. And we as the reader can see there's a few paintings and stuff, and there's a painting of an old woman above the fireplace. And he thinks the oil portrait of the old woman. What? And now, look, I'm gonna point out here, he shouldn't be able to tell that's a painting of an old woman, but whatever. And there's a lot of dialogue here, so I'm gonna give you the jiffy. This is the mother of the Deathstalker. Now, you hardcore Daredevil fans will know who the Deathstalker is. He was a villain. He was probably one of the better villains of the pre-Frank Miller, pre-Bullseye era. And, well, Daredevil didn't exactly kill him, but it's sort of like the villain, kill themselves going after Daredevil. One of those situations. Yeah, and she said, she didn't condone his actions or anything, but he was her son, and he's going to pay for his life in the only way that matters, which is his life, Daredevil's life. And Daredevil just has this sad look on his face, and he says, you can't hear me, but let it go, he's dead, let it go. And this chick is just monologuing about how, it's a very old family. She used more money than the fortune of a few small nations to prepare all of these traps. And she must have, because this is ridiculous, the amount of traps in this house. Every single room has been a trap. There has been no break, no let up. And it's like, there's so many random variables. He could have landed anywhere, but it was always on a trap. I'm going to walk on that spot over there. Oh, it's a slide to more spikes. Actually, he doesn't get time to walk. He just gets flung from trap to trap. Anyway, yeah. So, the only way this tape will play, she mentions, is if the house senses another human heartbeat. And as he's the only one who would logically go there, she goes to her reward knowing that the final ultimate trap is about to trigger. And Daredevil has a horrified look on his face. He's like, I'm a fool! The end of this tape will activate the trap that's gonna kill me. And so he has until she finishes talking to run out. And she also mentions that this series of, he would have been lured there after the house detected that her heartbeat ceased. And then it would have sent a very intelligent drone to lure him in so that he would be killed one way or another. Which is creepy because you realise now that there is a dead old lady in this mansion somewhere. And she's talking to him. Ooh. So he proceeds to, he's trying to get out of the house. He's trying to smash the windows of the log. Not really working. But then he senses cold air coming from the fireplace. And the old lady is still talking in the background, but she mentions she's not proud of what she's doing, but that's the way it is. There has to be balance in the world, eye for an eye. But he climbs up the chimney, and then he comes to a grid screen at the top. So he positions himself so he can start kicking out the thing, which, he's doing a lot of impressive stuff in this issue. I'm not gonna lie, he's going crazy. And he kicks out the grate, he leaps out of the mansion, holds onto a tree, slides down it, and starts running towards the gates, and everything just blows up behind him in a gorgeous, nearly full-page picture of him just mounted on the gate, looking behind him at just the burning explosion that used to be the mansion is currently exploding, but you know what I mean. And it's very snowy, there's dead trees. I don't know, it's just the artwork in this issue is phenomenal. Even if it makes no sense, yeah. So he hops down the fence and he's like, yep, it's over with now. But then he hears something behind him and the fence has lowered itself to fire the spikes at him, and he dodges just in the nick of time. And he just doesn't the house know it's dead? So that was the last trap there. And Daredevil remarks, this has been the worst night of my life. So he crawls to Natasha Romanov's unit. And, well, Natasha Romanov is Black Widow. They were, God, those guys, Black Widow and Daredevil, are so on and off. I have no idea if they were on or off at this point. I'm guessing on, because I don't think Karen's around at this point. Anyway, he knocks on the door and she opens it, and, well, she's shocked to see a bleeding Daredevil. And she asks Matt what happened. He's like, we'll talk about it over dinner sometime. And Black Widow remarks she thought he was mad at him. And Daredevil's like, I still kind of am, but look, can you just help me here? He's being kind of a jerk, and yeah, but yeah, it's the thing, like, you know, he's just saying she's just helped, like, stopping the bleeding and stuff, and he's just like, I got a court date at 8, and she's like, don't go, that's stupid. And, well, Daredevil just tells her not to break his back, and he's gonna go have a shower. So, yeah, 45 minutes later, because it's 7:15, he is in court. And the judge is getting up him for, well, not really paying that much attention. And then Matt says, well, it was a terrible night. And the judge is like, I don't care about your playboy ways, so Murdoch must have a reputation. But he thinks, well, at least last night is done, the deadliest night of my life, and this is today, and I'm safe. But at the back, past his shadow, you can see 2 more little girls identical to the drone that lured him to the mansion. Dun dun dun. To be continued, I guess. Doesn't say to be continued, but, well, I mean, if we get another absent Carl, I'm sure I'll finish it off for you folks. So, yeah. I really liked that issue. It was ridiculous, but it was very fun. Great artwork. It's just really action-packed. He's just dodging all of these traps and stuff, and it's crazy. It's like that Harold Meacham building, but it's on steroids. So yeah, that was Daredevil 208. It's definitely worth a read if you have access to it. I don't know where it can be collected. Let's see. It's not in any it being a Daredevil Essential, maybe I'll have a look, see if it's collected anywhere. Okay. It's definitely an underrated Daredevil issue, though. In fact, the whole post-Miller period has some really good highlights. I don't even know if it's in an essential. Yeah. Which is a shame, but they're doing a lot of epic collections lately, so maybe it'll be collected in one of them. So, I hope you guys enjoyed. Sorry if I was a bit rusty. This is my first solo podcast effort, I guess. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the issue. At least we got to, get excited because this Iron Fist show seems to be moving along finally. So yeah. Next week we should be back to normal, covering either the next issue of Power Man and Iron Fist or just the next issue of Iron Fist. I don't know when the next Power Man and Iron Fist comes out. So yeah, until next time, guys, have a good one. May your Billy Club become onto a thing of iron and you do some crazy backflips, and peace. Iron Fist and all other characters in these comics are properties of Marvel and Disney. and any music or images we use belong to their respective copyright holders, and we do this for fun, so please don't sue us. You can contact us at sonsofthedragonpodcast@gmail.com. Just send us mail, comments, thoughts, send us anything you want really, even if it's not about Iron Fist. And if you don't want it read on the air, just mention that. You can also reach us at Facebook, the Immortal Iron Fist Podcast, Sons of the Dragon, our Twitter, at Iron Fist Podcast, our SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/Sons of the Dragon with hyphens where the spaces are, our YouTube, Connor Carl, just search Iron Fist Podcast on YouTube and you'll find us real quick. And then there's our WordPress, Sons of the Dragon, the Immortal Iron Fist Podcast.wordpress.com. We are also on iTunes, feel free to rate us there. If you rate us less than 5 stars, well, just tell us what we're doing wrong and we'll try and improve that. And last but not least, we are on Podcast Garden in the literature section. And thanks to Thomas Tissot for the theme song at the start, and thanks.